You're now tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips@CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Yo, this politician going about, vote for him.
What is that?
And give me $50.
$50?
Every time the election thing come around, you know.
Every time, boy.
What are going to do? We not to deal with politics and them bag of tricks. Can't fool we and take with the clown. No. We not to deal with politics and them bag of tricks. Vote for Hillary Clinton, cause him no. The foundation we grow up on. Every 4 years a campaign slogan. How it is? Love go on like them no know man. Until time fi come look out from. Oh, please not try if it come sweet me. All you a smile up for your life easy. Them too deep and greedy. No one help but want to come greet me. Straight from Windsor Park to South Sound. I'll rig the people them want round. I get to youth have to fight down. I feel shape up the system right now. People are tired for cry now. But me just want the chance to provide now. For survive. No more tired of the tie down. We want freedom to live life now. We not to deal with politics and them bag of tricks. Can't fool we and take with the clown. No. We not to deal with politics Politics and them bag of tricks. Politics. Hillary Clinton, cause him no.
En la vida de político siempre es lo mismo. Hace mucho tiempo no votaron por el chico, solo porque fue de viaje a diferentes lugares. Ahora viene con todo y más fuerte. Ahora no necesita de la suerte. Tiene más apoyo de su gente. Un hombre honesto hasta la muerte. Yeah. Y este señor simplemente quería ser un candidato mejor. Por eso estamos en eso de aprender el español. Honduras, Venezuela y Panamá. También se fue a República Dominicana. Luego ellos lo llevaron al corte pensando que lo iban a ganar, pero no pudieron y salieron sin nada.
We not to deal with politics and them bag of tricks. Can't fool me and take with the clown. No. We not to deal with politics and them bag of tricks. Vote for Hillary Clinton, cause him no. But to all them get fill again, roundabout get bill again. It's an election bill again, talk the goodwill again. Holy
Good morning, beautiful folks. There I am. Had to unplug my mic last night. I have so many USB ports that I think I've ordered a port extender because everything is USB these days. And I'll tell you what, every device you connect to the computer, you need a USB port, right? And the computer only comes with so many ports. But good morning, one, and good morning, all. Beautiful people. I had to use a little bit of filler music this morning because I was still running around the studio trying to get stuff sorted out. How is everyone doing? It feels like a Friday, but it's actually Thursday. That's because we have had a super long week. And it is Earth Day. So happy Earth Day to everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about Earth Day today, as well as the swearing-in ceremony. So if you guys missed it, you missed a good time. We did show it here on the live and CMR, so hopefully you can go back and view that. It was a good crowd that actually turned out in person. Lots of people came who wanted to see the historical moment. I guess technically it's the first swearing in since we've changed over from the names Legislative Assembly to Parliament. So there's that historic moment. For many of us, though, I think we were there to just see the changeover in government and to see if there'd be any excitement. Richie, we're going to actually talk about that because one of their techs spoke to me about it as well. Yes, child, this is the times when, even when you got a big budget, you still end up not having the best quality, and it makes you wonder. Good morning, Marshall. How are you? Joining us from North Carolina. What's the weather like? Beautiful Donna. West Bay is here. West Bay is represented. Good morning, Olivia. Leroy, I believe Leroy is in the capital, Georgetown, represented. Good morning, Dion. Roderick is here. He says, good morning, everybody. Evelyn from Newlands, good morning. Jeanette, good morning to you. Hello, Juliet. Miss Bonnie from East End always has it locked right here to CMR. Good morning, Mr. Don. So nice to see you. Miss Charlene is here. Pauline, thank you for tuning in. Good morning, Jenny. Mirror Star says top of the morning, y'all. Louie, how are you? Louis, I finally got your package yesterday. Shout out to FedEx. It took them a minute to deliver this one. I don't even know what the delay was, but I did get your package. I haven't had a chance yet, Louis, to actually open it, but I did pick it up late yesterday because I was actually trying to send a package to Jamaica, but FedEx was like, are you sure you want to send this package? Because you got to pay a broker fee and a 50% duty and this and that. And I was like, okay. So anybody going to Jamaica? Now I know why people be like, do me a favor. Just take this little package. Why don't you? Because they make it so cumbersome to send a package, right? Debbie Ann, good morning. Charlene, Miss Beulah, Jasara, how you doing? Oh my gosh, we're going to talk about that fiasco yesterday. Kathy, Sarah. Yes, I mean, I thought it was an appropriate song as well for the entire camping season. It's such a shame that Alric did not get in, but he gave a good effort, and hopefully next time the people of Georgetown will think again about their actions. Richie, thank you so much. Barbara, good morning. Big up Alric. Yes. It's a wonderful song, and we will continue to play it if and when appropriate, not just during the camping season, but politics happening all the time. Yeah, I think we would have liked to have seen some different representatives for sure. I think actually Alric might be coming on the show this morning. I know he had one of his, he's a lawyer, so he's got all kind of client meetings and stuff all the time. But I know he definitely, both him and Sammy, expressed a desire to come on the show. And just a few minutes to thank everyone for your support. So good morning, Miss Lily. Good morning, Alice. Irvelyn. Good morning, Roderick. Good morning. Megan, thank you so much for tuning in. Shout out to our folks on YouTube. Sonia is here for it. Elizabeth. Jonathan, thank you. Blessings on Earth Day. Happy Earth Day. Yes. Happy Earth Day. I want to talk about a few things, definitely in relation to that. My daughter woke up this morning. Well, before she went to bed, I got home in time to see her off to bed, and she got up and was so excited about Earth Day. She's like, oh, tomorrow is Earth Day. It's wonderful when they go to schools that make these things like really interesting for them, because of course she doesn't really have a concept of what Earth Day is, but she's like, we're going to go clean up the beach. And I'm like, yes. That's something to be excited about. At that age, everything is exciting. They're not already thinking, oh, this is going to be a chore. They're like, yes, Earth Day. So she woke up this morning and she's like, it's Earth Day. Can I wear blue for Earth Day? And I was like, sure, you can wear blue for Earth Day. I don't know what blue has to do with Earth Day. I mean, the Earth is kind of bluish green, I guess, in most of its depictions. But yeah, I was like, sure, you can wear blue. So she wanted to wear everything blue. A blue dress, blue shoes, blue sunglasses. She's like, everything has to be blue for Earth Day. I'm like, all right, yeah. Thank you, Miss Liliana. I appreciate it. She says, look like Cece did my makeup. No, but I do want to give a big shout out. I'm still rocking the hairdo, because trust me, there's so much hairspray in this that I'm gonna need what's her name's assistance in trying to take all this mess down. But big shout out to Rocio, who assisted with the hair and makeup yesterday. Thank you, Rocio. Appreciate it. I'll have to go to her now to take the hair down, because trust me, it's not an easy feat to get all this hairspray out without yanking it out myself and tearing out my hair in the process. Morning, Larry. 37 degrees in New York. But yes, I dressed up a little bit yesterday, and some of you were so surprised to see me dressed up. It was kind of funny. And then I was thinking about it, and I said to myself, well, I guess it's been a minute that I haven't actually probably, put on a little bit of makeup and a decent outfit, cleaned up myself a little bit. But yes, we have to represent when we go to formal events. We got to make sure we look good. We are still press and media, but in case you missed it, there we were driving to the event. And I had so many of you commenting on my Cayman flag necklace. I, of course, want to give a big shout out to David from Prodigy Jewelers. He's one of the companies that we work with in terms of promotions. And, he is an amazing jeweler. He does repairs as well as a lot of unique pieces. I need to talk to him about getting me, this is a one-of-a-kind piece, but I want to get some earrings to go with it because I always have a hard time deciding what earrings to wear. And I would love some little like flag earrings as well. But he did all of this, like the blue overlay and the color is right on top of like solid gold. And I mean, he's done such a wonderful job with this piece. Every single time I wear it, people are just like, wow, that is such an amazing piece. Where did you get it from? So yes, big shout out to David. I don't know who's trying to call me and what's up, but this ain't the time for phone calls, folks. So he does so many unique pieces. I have another one that's like the shape of the Cayman Islands, which I know a lot of people have, but his particular one has a piece of the coat of arms and a piece of the flag in it. And again, people are like, oh, I've never seen one like that before. It's so unique and it's so different. So I decided to wear a little pop of color on the lips, plump it up a little bit with some color. So thank you guys so much for noticing that I looked a little bit different yesterday. Yes, it's been a minute. Charlene says, I can't understand how that was overlooked. What was overlooked? Okay, so I saw so many people there yesterday. We took lots of photos. I've not had a chance to go through the photos yet. I was going to do that last night, and then I was like really tired. And I was like, listen, I am going to my bed. Like seriously, I was that tired. So I went to bed like 11:30. That's early. But I think we got a lot of photos. And what I wanted to do actually was I wanted to get photos of like Caymanian faces, Now, whether you've been here for 10 years, 20 years, whatever, you're part of the fiber of the community. And so I'm going to do on the website a bit of a like a photo montage of the ceremony, like swearing in photos kind of thing. Good morning, Senor Alric. How are you?
Good morning. Good. Start of a new cycle. So all good. Hoping for good things.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Annette, Gigi, Dana. We're so used to having you here on Thursdays. I know this is the first Thursday post, well, I guess the second Thursday, technically, post-election, but I think last week you were pretty busy. So tell us, how have things been going for you, Alric? It's 1 week out. You obviously were, unfortunately, not successful in the election, but, I think you should stay the course. How are you feeling?
I'm good. There are a lot of positive things that have come out of this experience. I actually have a call later this morning with a Dallas-based company who wants to have some of my involvement in their company. So they're an environmental outfit and has grown over the years. And they also have a news segment. So it's very interesting that they're actually one of the largest in the world and what they're doing. So it's very interesting that someone like that would have been paying attention to Cayman elections and what some of the candidates were saying. So as a result of my campaign, they contacted someone I knew in Dallas and said they'd like to have a conversation with me this morning to talk about my views and my opinions on the environment. So you see, when one door closes, another door opens, right? So I think that once I learn more about this environmental outfit, it'll probably give me a chance to share the international ideas that they have developed and some of the things that they're doing in Dallas. Try to share some of those things with some of our politicians and policymakers to see if some of those things can be considered in Cayman. So today is just a learning. Today's my first sort of learning orientation day. So I'll learn as much as I can about their company and share more with you. So it's all good things, and also preparing to do some stuff within Georgetown South and rest of well. So
Wonderful.
it's what it has done is to create a momentum. I think
Absolutely.
a lot of people want change, and not necessarily changing one thing to something else, but to enhance things that in a way that could work in the best interest of Cayman rather than just in the best interest of a small segment of the population. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Our job right now as members of the community is to hold those elected persons to their promises and
Mm-hmm.
help them and work along with them and make contributions. Obviously, as a public figure, they're all open to public criticism, but we shouldn't limit our comments to criticism. We should also make contributions to help them get better and to help us as a country get better as well. So it's all good, Sandy. Looking forward to seeing Mall Road continue to develop into the number 1 and number 2 and number 3 and number 4 spots in media. So
Yeah, well,
forward,
we already have the number 1 spot, so you're saying we should just dominate everything.
I think you should just have all the spots, maybe even some kind of quasi, TV, something, because Cayman is still missing that local TV segment. We're still missing that connection to the older population. So I don't know what you have planned in that area, but I think we need to bring in some of the older folks so that they're up to date with technology and they're watching Mall Road as well, and they're up to date and informed, because some of the older people are still just listening to the radio.
Yes.
Waiting for a hard
Alric, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because yesterday we had made an announcement towards the end of the program that we do have these streaming devices, which were graciously co-sponsored by a private donor, someone who wishes to remain private. And, we have them here. We've done a few setups already, and I'm encouraging people to reach out to me so that we can get those out to the people who need them, which is exactly the community that you're talking about, the older folks. And I got 2 messages immediately after the program. One person mentioned that their parents were in their 80s. And the other person mentioned that they were, I don't know how old they were, but elderly parents. And so I'm going to go between now and the weekend and get them sorted out so that they can have that option of being able to watch CMR live every single morning, as well as get other content as well. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is something that we will continue to do as long as we can. And, we are working behind the scenes. Sometimes things take a little bit longer than we would like, but we are working behind the scenes with a radio partner about potentially getting back, or I shouldn't say getting back, but getting on air so that people can tune in via that method as well, if they have, traditional radio. So yeah, we've got some plans. Of course, you put a young man in contact with me last year about doing a youth program, and we are hopeful that the time will now permit us to kick that off here in due course. So lots of exciting things on the agenda. So thank you so much for that, Alric.
Yeah, that'd be great if that youth program could start. I mean, this is the perfect time because, the youth have the energy at the moment. They want to be part of it. A lot of young people actually said that they weren't getting some of the communication. So they were getting Mile Road, but they weren't necessarily getting like the documents and the information they needed to make an informed decision about voting. So we need to involve young people more, because maybe they can get trained and up to date and then pass that information on to other young people who are sharing the same channels that they're sharing on a daily basis, like Instagram or whatever it is that most young people are using now. So I hope your program starts soon. I hope it launches soon. I'd be willing to assist in the background, whatever the support that I can provide in the background. I'll do so to help young people express themselves and establish a platform for themselves. Who knows? You might have a youth party coming along soon. You never know.
Yes. Well, thank you for that offer, and I know that you're always willing to assist in any way that you can. And definitely, I am constructively working on it, sort of as we speak. It's not just on my list, my to-do list, but it's on my active list. So there are things happening in the background. So we're hopeful that probably the next week or so we can have that launch and ready to go. And we're going to have a young man coming in the program. We just need to set the date with him. His video has been going viral. I don't know how many of you guys have seen it, but he's been trying to, just explain what his understanding is of the process post-election and what has been going on. I think he's done a really fine job with it. His name is Reno Jackson. John Reno Jackson. And we may even have him on tomorrow, folks. So make sure you tune in for that, because a really bright young man. And, we have to give, I think, all people a platform, but especially young people who oftentimes feel disenfranchised. I mean, I'm shocked that the average voting age went from 50 to 51, because I'm like, I expected it to come down. And the fact that it jumped up a year older, I found a little bit discouraging for me, because I really wanted that, young vote initiative that a lot of people are involved in to have brought in a lot more of the younger voters. Now, I know some of them obviously voted and they participated, but what do you think we can do, Alaric, in terms of bringing in a higher voter turnout? I noticed last night at the swearing-in ceremony, and I saw that you were there, that the governor made mention of us having like a 70-something% turnout, and he thought that was pretty good. And to me, that's actually not pretty good at all for an island this size. I'm thinking we should have like 85-90% easily. What do you think? What measures can be taken to ensure that people get out and actually vote?
Well, a part of it is education. So it's including information about the Constitution, about politics, about civics at a very young age in school. So that's something that has to start right away, so that young people are informed at every stage about politics and about how the Constitution works and what's in the Constitution, what their rights are. They need to understand these things at every stage, so that by the time they leave high school, they have that embedded in their head, what there are, freedom of speech, freedom of information. All of this is important, because sometimes young people feel discouraged, not because someone is not taking action on their behalf necessarily, but because they don't know. They don't know what the next step is. They don't know where to find information. So I think the first step is education. Let's include those things in the schools. Education also through programs like yours. I mean, you're live media. You're on top of things, on top issues every single day, and some of those things involve politics. So information through media, information through academic education. And I think that we probably need to have a youth arm that is actively registering people to vote, because this idea that we had 70-something% turnout, it totally ignores all of the issues that surround elections. So as you know, the complaint that I made on election day regarding the movement of the mobile ballot boxes and postal ballot boxes unsupervised by any candidates or agents. So you can praise the elections office and did a great job, but the problem is there are a lot of issues regarding the processes. And so we have to be open to improving those processes, because if we're not open to improving processes, then we leave a lot of doubt for young people in the whole process. So if young people have doubt in the integrity of these processes, then they probably won't register to vote. You have to be careful what message we're sending and how we continue to market things in a way that people can receive it in a nice way. Well, what we should be doing is making the improvements to encourage more young people to vote. And so one of the other things I think is, so beyond the academic education, beyond the media education, beyond including them on your programs, and beyond establishing a platform for young people, we need to make amendments to the Constitution as well, amendments to the elections law, because as we know, a lot of people have been disenfranchised for being overseas, working, getting experience overseas, and because they're overseas for a long period of time, working and better themselves to come back to Cayman, that is used against them, and then they're disqualified both as candidates and disqualified to vote. So those are some things that have to change to ensure that we don't disenfranchise voters. And I guess the last thing I would say is we also need to change this idea about voter registration deadlines. I just think it's totally unreasonable that we have a voter registration deadline which is so far before election date. The reason why we can't have a voter registration deadline a week before the election day, there's no reason why. And I think also we also need to consider the improving the efficiency of the elections as well, because what I think should happen is every time a person votes, every time they go into the booth, we should be counting then, so that the public can see the live tally of votes for whatever candidate. And I also think that we probably need to move towards the use of some technology for electronic voting. Now, obviously, there are issues with electronic voting in terms of getting hacked or your documents getting tampered with electronically. But if we put the proper safeguards in place, proper encryption, whatever is necessary, the electronic voting can probably work, and it would be useful for those people who are not actually in Cayman, and it would remove the issue of the physical hard copy postal ballots being returned, and we would have this instantaneous record and processing of the electorate's information. Because right now, if the postal ballot is returned, who knows what happens when it is returned, right? Is it going to be put in a postal ballot box, supervised by a candidate or an agent or someone else you can trust? Will it be on the camera? So we need to get past all of the sort of archaic things that result in too much labor-intensive processes being involved and too many questionable practices being involved. The whole 70% figure turnout doesn't really mean anything to any of us. If we exclude so many young people from the voting process, then to me, the 70% doesn't mean anything. Because what 70% reflects is a bunch of people who are 52 years and older who have decided to show up to vote. Now, I appreciate all those people 52 and over who showed up to vote. But the thing is, if we're excluding a significant part of the voting population, if we're excluding over 5,000 people from the voting process and our small population, that has an impact in terms of making a difference to the end result.
Absolutely.
So to answer your question, 70%, it may be impressive to some, but it's not impressive to me because we've excluded so many people.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I was kind of wondering about the same thing, Alric. I was thinking about this post-election, like, why haven't we made any moves to computerize the whole process? Because certainly it would make the vote count a lot quicker given our population size. And I think that it could eliminate so many other issues. So I just want to ask you, in terms of your specific scenario where you made a formal complaint to the elections office. We did a story earlier this week that you've not even heard from them, even in terms of acknowledging your complaint. Since that story, have you heard from them? I mean, have they yet to acknowledge your complaint?
No, unfortunately, the elections office never responded to my email on election day. They never even acknowledged receipt of the email. However, the international observers did contact me after they saw a newspaper article to ask if I did receive a response. And, I did follow up with the election observers and ask them, what measures, what steps can I take? And the response from the international observers was, it is outside their remit. So I don't know what is the function of international observers then, because if they're supposed to observe what's happening and make a report, and then someone actually makes a report and then they say it's outside their remit, then you question, so what's the point of having an international observer if
they're going to just produce another report that's going to go on somebody's desk and not mean very much to them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I actually copied the Anti-Fraud Commission and Auditor General's office as well. Again, there's no response, but yet we have this stuff marketed, on television and marketed in a newspaper like everything is great. No, everything's not great, because as long as there are governance issues, as long as the framework allows for a voter's complaint to be totally ignored and being turned a blind eye to, as long as that happens, as long as there are issues in terms of the framework, then there's nothing to rejoice about in this process. I would have expected the supervisor of elections to have responded to me, because I made a complaint. So when someone makes a complaint, you'd expect you get a response, but I got no response. And then you have all these news pieces that you hear being published saying what a great job everyone did. And, even a report from the local observers, I guess, saying what a great job and how elections were handled so well. But then you have someone who actually makes a complaint and then you get no response and no acknowledgement. So I don't know what it tells you. It's to me, it's like we continue with this show instead of making sure that we have strict rules in place and making sure it's a clear, transparent process, making sure that we do things and have good governance so that we don't have any questions that can arise. And if questions do arise, then we can face them head on and say, listen, thank you for bringing this to our attention, and this is how we're going to resolve it. But instead of saying that, the response you get is this marketing and this publication in a newspaper and everywhere else that says everything's great. Everything's great. The truth is everything's not great. So I think now we have a chance to hold all these parties accountable now that we have a new government that actually is keen on ensuring transparency and good governance. So hopefully, leading from the top, we can see good ideas about governance and good structures and good framework, independence, transparency, involving people in the decision making, involving more stakeholders, taking their views, and creating a great system. Hopefully, we can have a good structure that's reflected from the top down into our communities, and hopefully we get beyond just marketing and get into action and transparency and accountability.
Let's just read a few comments, Alric, that are coming in, because there are a number of very, very interesting comments that we have here. Let's just back up a little bit. So Charlene says, more accurate information and positive inclusion of our youth beginning from school. It's like our cultural and history issues being basically left behind. Claudia, thank you so much for tuning in. Claudia says, I agree with Alec, more information and education available to our children at an early age about the process and importance of voting and other civic issues, then ongoing information and education, not waiting for 4 years for the benefit of all citizens and eligible voters. And I think Claudia makes an excellent point. And it's like the voters' drive. Like, we should be registering people right now. If you missed it, then there's no reason why you can't get registered now. Yes, you can't vote again for 4 years unless something happens that triggers a by-election. And you never know. People sometimes die in office. Sometimes people leave office unexpectedly or whatever. There are things that can trigger a by-election, and you want to ensure that you are ready to vote, whatever the case may be. So, Jackie, Ms. Sue, we're going to come back to your comments a bit later on about Juliana, because we've had quite a few interesting comments about her after she crossed over, which I think a lot of people will find interesting. Jackie says that voter education seems so needed. The negotiation process alone left so many people frustrated and with a lot of questions about what is actually legal and what recourse is available to voters. And I can tell you one thing for sure, it was very, very frustrating. And I think we all got to the point where we were like, we just wanted to get to swearing in day. So I don't know if you saw this show yesterday, Alec, but I was joking that for us, swearing in day was like the equivalent of Coronation Day in the Frozen movie, where, Anna, the sister, was so excited about Coronation Day. She was like singing and dancing in the palace. It's like, it's Coronation Day. It's Coronation Day. Like, it was such an exciting time. And I kind of felt like that yesterday. I kind of felt like it's swearing in day. Let's get it done. And even then, there was still some drama, which we're going to get into here in a bit, during the process. So it was just like, can you guys not behave? So yes, all of that makes people frustrated. And I think that it also shows a certain immaturity on the side of the elected officials. So young people are probably looking at this going, these people are like kids. Like, do we really want to even be involved in the process? But you have to be involved in the process to get, elected representatives who are mature, who are trustworthy, who can be held accountable, and so on. So Jackie also says that I completely agree that the voter registration needs updating. There are quite a few people that during the course of candidates campaigning became more engaged, but it was already too late to register. People should absolutely be able to know the field of candidates before deciding if they want to exercise their right to vote. I think that there has to be some way of shortening that registration process legally, and change the elections law so that can happen. There are jurisdictions with much larger populations than ours that allow for a registration period closer to the actual election date. And I think that's important. Because right now, Jackie, the only thing that candidates can do is start really, really early to let the electorate know that they're planning on running. But like you said, even if you start early as a candidate, there will be some people who simply don't get engaged until kind of like the 10th and 11th hour. And then it's too late for them to become registered. So Dacia agrees with Bonnie's comment and says, parents seem to think everything about their children's education lies squarely on the teachers, and it ain't so. Whatever they put in is what they get out. So I can't remember what I think Bonnie was just saying, yes, some of the problem is that parents show no interest in their children's education. So Dacia agrees with that. And of course, this is a good, important point. But I think the point should also be made that sometimes the parents themselves don't have the level of understanding of the process to inform their children. So what do you do in situations like that? This is where, certain attitudes are transposed from like one generation to the next. Because if the parents don't know any better, then they can't do any better. So if you have parents who don't understand the importance of voting, who are like, oh, nothing's ever going to change, or parents that allow candidates to buy their vote every single year, or they get on social media defending certain candidates when those candidates should never be in the real world elected. Their kids grow up seeing that and they think, oh, okay, this is how we do it. This is what's okay. Unless their children are being exposed to something else. So unless they're listening to news platforms or, engaging in other conversations, they will grow up with that same mentality and that same attitude. So unfortunately, I don't know how much that will help. I think, of course, parents should be interested in their children's education. I've always said parents should be the number one advocate for their children. But one of the best things in the world that you can offer your children is diversity. Diversity in life, like being able to travel and see the world. Right now we can't travel, but just exposing children to different things. Even the internet, and letting children watch educational shows. And my daughter learns, we try to watch screen time, but she learns a lot of stuff from, she's like, oh, she started talking about koalas and all sorts of things that she's not seen in real life. And you're like, oh, well, how do you know about that? Well, we watched a video about it at school, and we're learning about Australia. And Mom, did you know that in Australia they have this and this and this? So she can't travel to Australia anytime soon. But there's so many different ways that you can expose children to the world and to other people and to other cultures. And I think that that's so incredibly important. And speaking of other cultures, over the weekend, the Sri Lankan community had, they celebrated their New Year for the Sinhalese community, which in Sri Lanka, a lot of you may not know this, but I know a little bit about the Sri Lankan culture only because my first boyfriend happened to have been from Sri Lanka. But there's two major groupings. They're the Sinhalese people, and then they're the Tamils. And interesting enough, they don't normally mix very well. There've been like civil wars between the two over the years. But my boyfriend, when I was in university, his parents were a bit unusual in the sense that one parent was Sinhalese and one was Tamil. And they came from very different backgrounds, but somehow they met and got married and made it work, right? But they celebrated their New Year's celebration over the weekend. And I actually wanted to go to that, but I kind of got very last minute notice that it was happening. So unfortunately, I was unable to attend. But, here on CMR, please, if you are part of the Indian community, there's subcultures within the Indian community. They have a very tight Indian community here. They have an Indian organization and they put on different events and whatever. If you're part of the Jamaican community, Honduran community, it doesn't really matter where you're from. I know everybody has their own cultural groups that do special events, and they celebrate, their Independence Days, their New Year's. If it's a different religion, they celebrate their different religious celebrations. Feel free to send us your information because we're happy to share it on our platform. And if we can attend your events, we'd be happy to do that as well, because I think it's through exposure. It's not that anybody is telling you to accept anything in life or accept a different viewpoint, but I think it's through exposure that you can open yourself up to learning so much. And the voting process is certainly no different than that as well. It's all about just broadening your horizons, right? So Magdalene says that the actual voting process on election day should be looked into. The first two voters were surprised at the archaic process of voting, the manual process. And this needs to be looked at. Would be good if the process could be looked at while it's fresh in everyone's minds. Even a lot of people are like, why are we using pencils? And some people don't trust the whole pencil thing. Like, it's a pencil with no eraser. What if I make a mistake? Well, unfortunately, if you make a mistake, that becomes a spoiled ballot. But I think, Alric, there needs to be some review of the process. And even the governor kind of mentioned it last night as well, that there were some recommendations that he thought could definitely go a long way. So we'll see what the international observers have to say overall about the process. I know that I spoke with them, and they actually spoke with other media houses. So they were invited to participate in the process through the governor's office. And I want to thank the governor's office because they made sure to mention that, you want to make sure in terms of media that you definitely speak to Cayman Mall Road, because they are sort of, the local media, in the sense that the majority of our readership are actually voters, which is quite interesting. But yes, Alric, I hope that they make some recommendations in terms of what to do. Now, would the Ombudsman's office be an appropriate entity for you to follow up with in terms of your complaint if you don't hear a response from Mr. Wesley in short order?
Well, I think the appropriate person to follow up with is the governor, because during the period of elections, the supervisor of elections is supposed to report to the governor.
Okay.
The governor's the appropriate person. And then I think beyond that, probably the FCO would probably be interested in knowing about any issues. But you should know that, candidates weren't really well informed of many things during this process. For example, we were aware that there would be virtual international observers.
Mm-hmm.
We were never told who they were. So when people started to contact us by email, and we thought at least I thought it was like some spam, or
Yeah, so did I actually.
so that's one of the things, is just communication. We were never told the names of the persons who may contact us. We were never emailed and copying the international observers saying, we would like to introduce you to the observers, blah, blah, blah. None of that was done. So when I got the email from the observers saying they wanted to arrange an interview, I didn't answer because
Yep.
I thought it was just some spam or some hacker. So I didn't answer. And I actually sent an email to elections office to ask them if this is related to their office. And the elections office answered and said, no, it's not related to them. And so it's like, how could the elections office not know who these people were, right? And so in the same email, I copied the Anti-Fraud Commission and also Auditor General. And it was actually the Auditor General who responded and said that she actually knew these people personally. And I don't see why it has to be left to the Auditor General to confirm who the observers were. The elections office should have confirmed that to us. The thing is, the kind of responses that we got were like, I got a reference to a newspaper clipping, and I was told that I should have known because it was published in a newspaper that international observers were going to observe virtually. That's not enough. I mean, just because you put something in the paper saying that there will be international observers observing virtually, is not enough. You have to actually communicate to the candidates and say, these are the persons who are going to contact you, or you send us an email and copy those persons on the email so that we know that these are valid, legitimate people that are contacting us. Otherwise, if it was a scam or spam, then we'd be communicating with people, sharing confidential information with people that we thought were observers. So, I mean, that's just one of the things that occurred. And, at the last minute, obviously, there was a change in legislation at the last minute where they decided that they were going to combine various ballot boxes. I mean, you don't amend the law, a few days or, within hours of an election. That's not a thing to do. And when you do those recommendations, Sandy, you have to remember that the international observers made several recommendations since 2017, many of which were never implemented. So when you talk about making recommendations now, again, what is the impact if they're making comments like, this is not our remit? If they're saying this is outside our remit, then what purpose do the observers really form if it's just marketing, is just to make us feel nice that they've looked at something, and here are a couple of bullet points that you can copy and paste and say, this is where we're headed, because you can copy and paste anything you want. If you don't act on things, if you don't implement them, if you don't execute and then have oversight, then there's really no point. For example, from 2017, one of the recommendations was to remove the serial number off of the ballots. When I voted, I took a look at the ballot, and so it was a serial number on the part that you vote, and there's a serial number on the bottom part that I think you can tear off. So the problem is your vote is identifiable by your serial number, so they can still determine how you voted. So the secrets of the vote is still not protected in the Cayman Islands. And that was one of the recommendations from 2017, that a serial number be removed. The serial number was never removed. The elections law was never amended. So the secrecy of your vote is not protected. While I appreciate that the observers will now make some recommendations, the point is, are they going to be implemented? Luckily, we do have a new government that does have an interest in accountability and transparency, and will ensure that the recommendations that are in our best interests are considered.
Yes. I kind of wonder when you're talking about that serial number, Alaric. I mean, there's so many ways to, I get the reason why they say they need to be able to, in the event that something happens, to put those two pieces back together. But, you can have a coding system that's invisible to the naked eye. So you need special equipment, which they can only order kind of thing on island. You can do barcodes so that, again, it's not like a number that someone can look at and say, well, this number 5421, whatever matches somebody, I think there are ways that they can still reach the same end objective, if you will, but at the same time maintain the level of privacy that would make all of us a little bit more comfortable. So again, this comes down to technology, and I don't know why it's so difficult for people to think, since we live in a technologically advanced world, of these things, because they're being deployed in different aspects of our lives. So Eddie is here. Eddie says, Kimani, people need to get more jobs now. Jean, thank you so much. Just trying to go back to a few comments. Dacia continues to say that parents need to be more involved. Jean says, contact your rep and make sure that they know you don't want her in education. Okay, we're gonna talk about that in a second, Jean. I know Alaric has to go here in a little bit, so we're gonna just focus on some voter comments and questions. Bonnie wants to know, was East End and North Side called in last? She keeps asking in terms of results. I don't know, because normally they're the first to come in because of their few numbers of individuals, so I'm not too sure. So Jackie agrees with more advocacy and participation in the homes. And I think, again, parents need to take their children out to more meetings and, meeting candidates and anything, just involving them more, I think, in community life. Some children have such a sheltered life, like they literally go to school and home and in front of the TV, video games or whatever, and that's the extent of it. Like parents don't take them out to social events, they don't take them out to fundraisers. And, I think that it, my daughter can be a little bit shy at times, but you guys have seen me dragging her out to functions with me, even if I have to work, like she's there, because I think that level of exposure is good. So Remy sends a little shout out to you, Alaric. He says that he lives in the lakes in South Sound and he was not happy with the results, but he wishes you all the best. So will you, someone else mentioned, Alaric, they definitely want to see you running in 2025. I don't know if it's too early for you to be thinking about that, but what is your mindset right now? Will you give this another go, you think?
I think the focus now is to just continue working in the community, not just my immediate community, but across Cayman. Try to make as many contributions as I can, try to do the best that I can to help the government in any way that I can in a positive way, and also keep them accountable. Mm-hmm. I think that's the best way to proceed, to make contributions. And as we get nearer to that date in 2025, then I can think about it more then. But I think for now, I think the best thing is to just continue making contributions to Cayman and each community. And, I'll just leave that decision for when we get closer to that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, good. Tanya gives you a shout out, says that they hope that she's hoping that they give you a government job. I know for a minute there, we were all excited when we heard last week that you might have been Speaker of the House. And we know that there was a lot at play sort of in the background, and there are probably some things that you can't necessarily share in terms of that. But we're still hopeful that this government will see your value that can be added to the government, although you were not an elected member. So Michael says Cayman culture and historical events of their ancestors past need to be taught in schools as well. Keisha also supporting Flora. Good morning. Dacia says that as parents, we can help one another. We don't need to necessarily wait on government to do things for us. And Leroy says he almost had Barbara. Yeah, boy, she hung on. Good morning, Miss Lita. Thank you so much for tuning in. The governor made mention of campaign finance. Yeah, I don't know exactly what he meant by that. I did hear that comment as well. And I'm not sure what he meant by that, actually. I don't know what he meant by that at all. So I guess we'll get some further explanation. One of the other interesting things, now we're going to start talking a little bit here about the ceremony yesterday, but I do note your comments about the audio. So what I want to say is the audio inside apparently was fine. GIS spoke to me, someone from GIS spoke to me after the ceremony, and they said that the audio issues that they were having outside was because of a third-party provider that they were relying on for the audio input. And that's why you notice that when we were inside, everything's fine. I think when we moved outside, I left the stream running, although I was actually on the outside myself. I did leave it running on the laptop so that you guys could at least have an opportunity to continue to watch the ceremony. But yes, I'm aware that there were some audio issues, and they said it was just somebody else giving them a bad feed. So Bonnie, we'll talk about the ministerial stuff here in a second. Dacia says, but we're never told who observers are. As far as I'm aware, Alaric ran the last election in 2017. Did he know who those observers were then? Well, the observers last time were on the ground in 2017.
Yes, yeah, that's right. The international observers were actually in Cayman at the time, and they were sent by the same body, right? So the excuse that it was because of COVID, nobody in Cayman can buy that excuse, because we brought in people for the regiment, we brought in other people. So if you're going to say that we're 2 weeks out from elections, and we even talked about it on social media that we have 2 weeks to go, why not bring in the international observers, have them quarantine, and then have them on the ground here to see what's happening for themselves? So none of us will buy that idea that due to COVID that the observers could not be here. No one's going to buy that.
Yeah, I think that what I probably thought myself is that it's like at the dentist, right? I was talking to the dentist the other day, and they're like, none of their specialists will come in because of the quarantine requirements, because they're literally only here working for 3-4 days at the most, and then they leave. So they have this system where they might come in once a month, like the oral surgeon, the periodontal surgeon, all these guys, they are specialists. So they come in, they work 3 or 4 days in Cayman. The local companies book their clients in advance, so they have a whole day of surgeries booked. But no one is going to come in and quarantine for even 10 days now that it's shortened for some people and only work 3 or 4 days. It doesn't make any sense for them, because that 10 days they are losing a substantial amount of money. If they're in the States and they're working those 10 days, you can imagine, whatever they make in a day times 10 that they've now lost to just work 4 days in Cayman. It makes no money sense for them. And I kind of wondered with the international observers if it was something similar. I don't know what their professional jobs are or anything like that, but where, it just didn't make any sense for them to come in to do 1 day or a couple of days. I don't know how much of the process they actually watch really, but even if it is 3 or 4 days worth of observing, if it made sense for them to stay in quarantine for that long. But to Dacia's point about you questioning the process, Dacia, I have to tell you that I likewise didn't know if these people were legit or not. And I actually reached out to my contact in the governor's office and I said, hey, are these people, I said, hold on one second. Let me just tell you what I said. I said on WhatsApp, is this legit? Don't want to fall prey to scammers, laughing out loud. And this was on the 7th of April when I had gotten the email from them. And they came back and my contact in the governor's office said, yes, it was legit. Because you had someone basically asking you to join in on they gave you a proposed time to join in on a Zoom conversation or Microsoft Teams meeting. And you had no previous introduction to that body or that entity. So I think Dacia, to his point, I likewise, when I saw the email, went, you can never be too careful in this day and age. Trust me. You guys see the email that has been circulating, read Bank of Butterfield, where, it's a complete scam. Well, I know that one's a scam, and that one's an obvious scam because I don't even have an account with Butterfield. And yet they're emailing me saying, oh, we need you to check your account. I'm like, I don't bank with Butterfield. But, you can't really be too careful when it comes to people contacting you by email, wanting you to click on a link to supposedly join a conversation or whatever. So Alric, thank you so much for joining the show this morning. We had Mitchell says with Alex Outlook, I don't understand how he didn't make it. Mitchell, I mean, ultimately the people decide, and it wasn't a landslide, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. So Louis says they offer classes at the university level here in the States to understand how to grow the science behind growing cannabis for medical use. Okay, so that's a slightly different conversation. And Lily also said that she was sad that you were not successful. Now, Alric, I must say that even though you were not successful, when I've witnessed you, you were at the meeting last week, Friday, with Sabrina Turner and the rest of the PAC guys. The audience has responded to you as though you were the winner. I mean, there was a very, very positive response to you when you've been in a public setting. So that I know it's no consolation, but it must still make you feel good that there were so many in the community who supported you and supported a lot of the causes that you stood for in terms of the environmental cause and so forth.
Well, I think that's what it's about. It's not about any prize or any award. It's actually you supporting your fellow Caymanians and them supporting you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very simple formula. If we want to move ahead, then we support each other. But supporting each other doesn't mean that you praise everything that someone does, because
right.
you must keep them accountable when something goes wrong as well. So, and in good times and bad times, you support each other. And the bad times, you make them accountable. That's also because you're helping them to become better, and you're helping your country to become better. And you're actually showing people that you have standards that must be upheld, and you're not willing to work or operate in an environment that has lesser standards. So I think for me, it's about ongoing support for each other, and not about the prize that one might get or the acknowledgement that one might get at the end of the day. I just want to work together with other people and share ideas and grow.
Okay. All right. Well, Alric, thank you so much. I mean, you were one of the individuals on this program, at least on this platform, that was very consistent before the election and after the election, of ensuring that you reached out to, voters in this way. And I know you were doing a lot of door-to-door initiatives and stuff as well. So thank you for coming back on the program today. Open invitation. Anytime you want to come on, just shoot us a message. And we appreciate you speaking directly to the people.
Yeah, thank you for the time as well. And, all the best to you for the rest of the year. And of course, I'll come on when invited. The only other thing I wanted to mention was when we had the interviews with the international observers by Zoom or by video call, the thing is the time was also limited. So they only gave us a specific amount of time to speak to them. And we had several candidates on the same call. So I'm trying to say that we didn't have sufficient time to go into detailed issues that would help them to prepare their report and make certain recommendations. So again, it does seem like a show, because if you're limiting the time that someone can talk to you, you're not in Cayman, you're doing it virtually, and you're limiting the time that someone can talk to you. So if there's a serious issue that has to be discussed, but you're saying you just have 30 minutes, or you just have an hour, and an hour is not sufficient, or 30 minutes is not sufficient, then is it really just a show? So that's one of the things we have to look at as well, to see whether people are just going through the motions, or if they're genuinely interested in raising the standards, ensuring that these things are implemented when they're put forward. Thanks a lot again for inviting me on the show. I'll be here to help CMR make contributions to the rest of Cayman, and try to get the message across, get positive messages across, and help to keep our government accountable and other officials accountable. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
All right, my dear. Thank you, Alric. We appreciate it. So let's have a discussion, folks, about some of what transpired yesterday, first of all, at the swearing-in ceremony. So in case you guys missed it, I do encourage you to go and watch it. It got off to, a very formal start. The governor did his bits and pieces. When it came to nomination of the Speaker of the House, that was the first bit of interesting something that started to pop off. And that obviously we knew that the PAC members were going to be nominating Mr. McKeeva Bush, and that nomination was done. And then it was followed by the opposition standing up saying that they wanted to nominate Barbara Connolly. Now, a lot of people found this to be quite an interesting choice of all of the opposition members that they could possibly nominate, because Barbara certainly doesn't have a reputation for being the most articulate person. And you would expect someone who's Speaker of the House to be well versed not only in, the House matters, procedure and the rules of the House, but also to be relatively articulate. And I don't think, being fair to her, that even if you like Barbara, love Barbara, whatever your personal opinion are of her, from an objective viewpoint, she would not be anyone's first candidate for being Speaker of the House. And that's just calling a spade a spade. So they nominated her. They lost the nomination 12-7. And the reason why it was 12-7 is Mr. Bush would have been voting at that time because he'd not yet been selected as Speaker of the House. So if you all remember, the original plan was to have Miss Irma Arch be temporary Speaker. That was before the late developments yesterday morning, where we had Isaac Rankin move back over to the other side, move back over to the independents. And we also had Juliana O'Connor Connolly deciding to join the independents, because at that point, the numbers were so close that they wanted to bring in an outside independent member or independent individual, not politically elected, not affiliated, to be a temporary Speaker so that they could go through the process then of voting for who the Speaker would be. Because he needed to basically vote for himself, is the bottom line, because the numbers were so close. However, in this situation, now that those two members have moved over and they have lost, instead of it being 7, it would have been 9-10, and they would have gotten it by a slim margin. With 2 of their members moving over and the opposition is now at 7, they have, they had no need then to use Miss Irma again. So she was obviously still there in attendance, still looking lovely and beautiful, but they did not actually need to use her for those purposes. So I just wanted to explain that, because I think a few people were a bit confused. I saw some of your comments like, why didn't they use Miss Irma? That was only supposed to be a temporary situation until they could vote for the Speaker and then put him in, and they would proceed from there. So that vote, the opposition lost 12-7. And then they turned around and nominated her again for Deputy Speaker. Now, interestingly enough, I have been told that Deputy Speaker, it doesn't have to come from the opposition benches, but a lot of times it does come from the opposition benches, or bench, I should say. But in this instance, I think because there's so much turmoil, or what's the word I'm looking for? I guess turmoil is the right word, with these individuals, that they decided not to essentially have that be the case. So both the Deputy Speaker and the Speaker of the House have been appointed from the government side. Now, I must tell you that after that happened, when I was sitting there listening and watching the proceedings, I sort of expected that there would be a position put forward for Premier as well, because we were all, by the time they put her for Deputy Speaker, you could hear the audience like moaning, like, oh, here we go. This is going to be what the opposition is going to do for the next 4 years. This is going to be such a pain, blah, blah, blah. And so when it came to, okay, we're putting forward who the Premier is going to be, Wayne Panton, there was a collective pause before they closed out the process, because I all think that we're kind of like, here we go. They're going to be asking for premiership as well, which they knew they couldn't win speaker or deputy speaker, but that certainly didn't stop them from putting forward the motion. So everybody was expecting Roy McTaggart to stand up and say, oh, yes, by the way, this is what we're going to do. And when they didn't, we were like, okay, they're not as crazy as we thought. But having said that, did anyone else make the observation, if you're watching carefully, that Mr. McTaggart acted on Alden's instructions the entire time? Like, he legit didn't make any decisions on his own. I thought that was exactly what we had predicted, and was very, very interesting that was what was going on. Now, the other thing of interest, so of course we know that yesterday morning, we announced early in the morning that Juliana O'Connor Connolly and Isaac Rankin decided to swap back over to the government side, which is the pact with the progressives. I don't know how that conversation went with Isaac, but that must have been very, very interesting, because obviously Isaac held out until the very last minute. And isn't it a sad situation that because of him holding out, he's now lost the opportunity to, at the very minimum, become a minister? So he will not get a ministerial position, because those have been promised now to other individuals. And he may not even get a parliamentary secretary position. I don't know. So, he was all about Cayman first, or East End first. Here's a reminder. They kind of got the word first wrong there, but this is kind of a reminder. This is him in the LA yesterday. Giving a shout out to his East End folks. But he went from putting East End in a position where maybe they could have been part of the Cayman First mantra to definitely no longer there. So I think it is very, very interesting that was the outcome because of his actions. And then he comes on the last minute. Now, Juliana O'Connor Connolly, after the story went live yesterday that she had swapped, a lot of you were messaging me and said, oh, Miss Sandy, you and your goat mouth struck again. You called it. I called it well before yesterday, but I know in yesterday's program, we were also talking about the fact that, I expected her to flip over because she's like the biggest flip-flopper in political history. Some people call her quite a different word, which I will not repeat here on the program. But, it's the equivalent of someone who's available at any price. So you think about what that word could possibly be. And so, yes, she has a reputation for doing that. So that wasn't necessarily my goat mouth. It's just that I pay attention a little bit to what's happening. And it's quite obvious that she was going to make that decision. I think most of you saw her statement as though she was doing some wonderful thing for the community. It was like, oh, in the best interest of, this country. It's like, okay, Juliana, if you say so, in the best interest of yourself. And there were a lot of Cayman Brackers, quite honestly, who were very upset with the fact that because of her actions, they as Brackers were not going to have a minister. Now, Brackers, child, I know some of y'all listen to the program, but you guys do think you're separate and apart from the Cayman Islands. So Cayman Brac is no different than West Bay, East End, or anywhere else. Not every district can have a minister. And so I find it interesting that the Brac, the sister islands, are like, well, if we don't have a minister, we're not part of the Cayman Islands. It's like, yes, honey child, you're still part of us, but there's just not enough ministerial positions to go around where every single, constituency will get a ministry. So here's what was being circulated yesterday. Official mascot of the Cayman Islands election season, Flipper. quite funny. Because, there are a lot of people who was like, yes, there was a lot of flip-flopping during the process this time around. I don't know that it was any less than last time. I think this time it was probably a little bit more transparent because we were telling you guys every minute by the second, oh, this one's happening, that one's happening. So I think really the coverage of the flipping and the flopping and all that kind of stuff was a bit different this time. But I don't think it was because it was more than previous times, if that makes any sense, right? So 2017, the exact same thing happened. 2017, we just sat back and we allowed the politicians to make their power play and for the progressives to take the government. This time around, the populace was much more engaged and involved in the process. And that, I think, was the major difference. And that all of us knew exactly what was going on. So thanks for your comments. Hello, Allison. Thank you so much. Jonathan is here. Miss Sue. So let's talk about Juliana for a second, because I did not realize that Juliana was so unpopular as Minister of Education. There has been a wide call on the government to not put her back in that position. Now, I thought, remember when we were discussing all the fights in the government schools, and she was very lackadaisical. You heard nothing from her. There was no response. There was nothing. I thought, all right, well, you know, she's just not that engaged in this. I had no idea, actually, that she wasn't engaged, none at all, until now. And so now I hear people saying, OMG, you know, Juliana she just didn't do anything. And I thought, what? So the message has been very, very strong that nobody wants Juliana back as Minister of Education or land, for that matter. I mean, I was like, irks? What? So yes, there's been a big call. Do not put her back in as Minister of Education. No one was impressed. She wasn't engaged. She wasn't showing up. Now, I know during COVID, a lot of people were like, where is the minister? And it took us a minute calling for her before she even showed up to the press briefings. But little did I know, those were not isolated incidences. There has been a real overall call for her not to get the ministry back because everybody's like, she has done a horrible job. So, yes, what a hot mess. Liliana, she says, me as a voter, I'm very discouraged in all that happened. It doesn't seem to me that independents are really who are in control. Too much weakness displayed. Why did PPM cross over with their own desire? Well, to be honest, the only PPM member that has come over has been Juliana O'Connor Connolly. Everybody else is holding on to the fort, to the sinking Titanic. Isaac, well, I don't know what to call him anymore. I mean, he was never a true independent, so I guess he's like a double agent. The other thing I want to say about someone like Isaac, I don't know if the independents can trust somebody like him. So I would see why they would not be inclined to give him a ministerial position. And in fact, if they did not even give him a parliamentary secretary position, I wouldn't be surprised by that either. Now, here's an interesting note about Isaac. Isaac is a very interesting individual. It was brought to my attention last night that he had both his wife and his girlfriend at the swearing-in ceremony. I'm like, what? Don Juan? People were so shocked. They actually took pictures of the three well, they had a daughter sitting in between. So I was like, who brings the wife that you're no longer with and the girlfriend that you're currently with to an event like this? Well, I guess they're all on good terms, folks. So maybe that just shows what a interesting person he is. So I don't know. Linda makes a fair point about Kim and Brack. She says the Brack has a district commissioner. I don't think any other district has that. You're absolutely right. And in fact, interesting timing, Linda, because just yesterday it was announced that there is a new district commissioner who has been appointed after the previous guy retired. Well, I heard he also wasn't doing much work and nobody was impressed with his track record. And the new guy, Mr. Mark Tibbetts, has been mostly doing all the work himself anyway. So now he has the position to go along with it. So Orvertha says, yes, she's no use in education. So that seems to be the general consensus in terms of education. I mean, it's just shocking to me. So what ministry are you going to give her is then my question that she would be engaged in. So Charlene says, give her a consular, a parliamentary secretary position. So she's like shadowing somebody else. Sue says she doesn't care. Juliano Conley O'Connor. Jenny is reminding us that her name, which she flipped during the election to be in the ballot box, is actually, well, we know her name is actually Juliana O'Connor Conley, but apparently someone said to me that she's never changed her name, but she uses O'Connor Connolly. But I don't understand the logic of how the elections office allowed her to be number one on the ballot box, to be quite frank. That to me was very unusual. And that's one of the questions that I would like answered by the elections office now that we're post election time. Very, very bizarre. So yes, no one's impressed with her. It's so sad because it's no wonder education is failing. Before her, there was Tara Rivers as education minister. No one was impressed with Tara either. So the progressives removed Tara and put in Juliana O'Connor Conley, and nobody's impressed with Juliana. So I don't know who's going to get education, but my God, we need someone to really go in there with some bootstraps on, who are willing to get some serious work done. Maybe she doesn't get a ministry, but I think that they promised her a ministry in order for her to move over in the first instance. So I don't know what kind of ministry she's going to get. Now, the other thing that you guys might not know, the independents were not trying to just have it their way. It wasn't Burger King, have it your way. Is that the theme for Burger King? They were willing to work with some of the independents, right? And in fact, they had been talks with Roy, but Roy kept making, I'm sure, at the insistence of Alden McLaughlin, the most ridiculous requests that you could imagine. So, for example, Roy was telling the independents, we want 4 cabinet seats, plus I want to be premier and I want Minister of Finance. And it was like, what? Come again? Where do you think you get all these bargaining chips from? You're in the minority. You don't come here begging us for a seat at the table, but then making these kind of demands. So any of us who have been watching the political scene recently, or for quite some time, in fact, will know that those are the demands of Alden McLaughlin. That was not Roy McTaggart speaking. That was him speaking, but his puppet master was in the background working some magic. So isn't that something? Over asking for something when you are in no position to make any such demands. Wow. So they wanted to come over with 4 positions, including premiership. Can you imagine the audacity of anyone? Ay. I just don't know what to say. I'm sitting here shaking my head going, So clearly that didn't happen. That was just unrealistic. And there were a lot of people who were concerned saying, listen, there are people who are still questioning the loyalty of Mr. Wayne Panton. Oh, is he still PPM? And I think had Wayne made such a decision, which would be stupid to give up that kind of power, not just power, but the power to do the right thing for the country is what I mean when I say power. For him to put that back in the hands of the progressives, a lot of people would have then said, you see, this is what I'm talking about. The dude is still PPM. He has proven that he's no longer PPM for sure. And he would not give in to their demands of basically taking over again with premiership and bringing along 3-4 ministers in total. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So we don't know what Juliana will get. There was a list that was in circulation yesterday. We did post it on our page as well. But I want to make it very clear that that list is I guess someone's thinking and how it could potentially be divided up, but that is not the official list. That is not the list of what has been decided by Wayne Panton and the rest of the group. So it's just one of those things where we will have to wait and see. I think maybe by tomorrow we should have some ideas about what will happen there. So I see some of you saying that you really wish that Michael Miles had been elected because he could have been a force to be reckoned with in the educational system. Well, Michael, most people do not get elected their first time out. So you have got to stay the course. You've got to stay focused. Trust me, you did not do bad at all in the polls. And, that district, I think, said a lot because the candidate who did win, Miss Sabrina Turner, did not win by a landslide. She was, I think, the only candidate that won with a smaller percentage. So in other words, there was almost a split of 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 of what people wanted in the constituency of Prospect. So it was still a very, very interesting race. And I think that we expected her and Michael to have been the forerunners in that race, which, turned out to pretty much be the case. But it wasn't by much. So we'll see what the next 4 years brings. People, you've got to remain engaged in the process. So, Denny, I think that we clarified that in the post and said that it was not an official list. So if you go back to that post, you will see that comment there. All right, so let's talk about some other things that happened at the event. A lot of you were very interested in the fashion of the day, which I thought was interesting. But let me just say that one of the things, I didn't get to see this during the ceremony because I was taking photos and doing a live stream. Basically, I was multitasking. But one of the more interesting things, or perhaps the most interesting thing that came out of it, was this video clip. Watch this. What's that all about? Let's watch it again. Was he saying thank you and just... Yeah, was he actually saying thank you, but then the tongue came out a little bit too far? I keep watching it, trying to understand what that was. I think the governor just ignored it. I mean, it was bizarre. Yeah, he does seem to be trying to say something, but it is very weird that his tongue needed to come out that far in order to say thank you. It's just weird. Normally, I'm trying to form the words thank you. Thank you. I mean, I don't know. It's just bizarre, right? So I can't wrap my head around that. It seems a bit unusual. I was sitting here going, okay, if I just say it naturally, thank you, thank you, thank you. The tongue just doesn't come out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You'd almost have to be forcing your tongue out. And then the expression, the rest of the face, let's just watch it again. Because I'm still trying to figure it out. Child, the governor has seen some stuff since he's been here, and he must be like, this is in the top 5 of just weird things that I've seen in the Cayman Islands. Louis says maybe it was a full moon. Jackie says he was trying to say thank you. So it was just very, very bizarre. I mean, Andrea, no one has ever seen him do that before. I mean, we have watched this guy. Listen, we have watched him during political, during the press briefings, during COVID. He has said thank you a lot. He has spoken in foreign languages even that he couldn't even pronounce. And he never did that. So it is very, very bizarre. But, I guess it is what it is. Melinda says that tongue looks sharp. Yes. Well, child, we won't go there about health ministers and healthy people. Most of our electorate could do with, including, I'm not an elected official, but most of us could do with getting on the bandwagon of being a little bit healthier. So, yes, the big hats were a statement. I think a lot of people were impressed by the hats. Sabrina's outfit got a lot of positive comments. A lot of people enjoyed her choice of outfit, and she had the biggest hat on. So a lot of people thought that was interesting. Heather had a wonderful outfit as well. So let's look at some of the pictures. Lida, thank you so much. You're absolutely right. The governor encouraged the code of conduct, which I think we're all looking forward to being one of the first things, I should say. Robin says, try saying it silently without vocals, where you're expecting you to read lips. I think it's a little more pronounced. Okay. Not necessarily. Like for my tongue to come out that far to say thank you, it actually prohibits me from saying it. Because, I mean, I feel like I'm going to bite my tongue if I do it that way. Daisy says, your hair looks like you didn't sleep last night. You know what? It just has so much hairspray in it, Daisy. I was saying this at the top of the program. I'm going to need some help, like taking all the, look at this. Look at how stiff that is. Oh, my gosh. But no, child, I slept this way, that way, all over, and it's still intact. It's amazing what hairspray can do for you, right? So yeah, Sabrina's outfit got a lot of attention and people really enjoyed the outfit for sure. And Miss Heather had on an outfit. A lot of people wore blue. So I want to share some of the photos from last night. Now I've not pre-screened these, so do keep that in mind. A lot of people wore blue, which was Wayne Panton's colors for Community Creates Country. And blue, that royal blue is a beautiful color and it looks so good on people. Now, Juliana wore all red. So I thought to myself, was she wearing red? Like, did she have that outfit already? Maybe she only packed one outfit for the occasion when she came from the BRAC. I don't know. And then she changed her mind and decided to join with the independents and had nothing else to wear. Last minute, couldn't go shopping. I'm not sure, but red is obviously the Progressives party colors. So I thought that was very, very interesting. So Sue says the hat wearing was very British. Well, you know, Caymanians love a good hat, child, especially for formal occasions such as this. Nothing better than a hat. And oh, there's pain in my shoulder. Can I tell you, I got some serious pain in my shoulder. I think I might have to go back to the orthopedic surgeon and get that shot that he promised me I could get. So yes, I would say that she looked lovely. She was well put together. All of the women looked dashing as far as I was concerned. Miss Catherine Wilkes looked beautiful. I loved her hair and her outfit. If I was being honest, which you guys know I'm going to be honest, Juliana did not really impress. She did not dress to impress. But I've never really seen her dressed to impress, to be honest. She's kind of, she needs to hire herself what are these people called that help you figure out your outfits? Stylists. She could do well with hiring a stylist to help her out a little bit. No, Heather was beautiful. So let's take a look at some of the pictures. This is Miss Irma and her son, Eric. And of course, she was in attendance. Originally, they were going to use her as a temporary speaker. She was not needed, but Miss Irma is always well put together, child. She loves to layer clothing. And I always admire that because I am not a person who layers clothing at all. And I think people who can do it well just really pull it off. So yes, a stylist is exactly what she needs. So that's Miss Irma and Eric. There's Miss Heather wearing an appropriate hat. not oversized, very demure on the makeup and the jewelry. And again, that blue color that represented her party, not party, but her group of guys that were at her, Wayne and Ozzy, that beautiful, kind of electric blue, absolutely gorgeous. So there's Miss Heather looking good. There's Miss Azita May, who's working with part of the protocol office, along with Heather, looking absolutely gorgeous. Now you'll have to forgive me. Ooh, that one needs to be deleted. I think this is when I left my camera with somebody. So let me just hit the delete button. Like I said, I've not reviewed any of these yet. So, there's Mr. Arch. So many of you will know this is Mr. Richard, aka Dick Arch. So they had an area, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of info. They had an area that the family members could sit and the former MPs could sit as well. So this was that part of that area. So you'll see people who have served before, like Miss Lucille, Miss Daphne, Mr. Arch, Miss Berna Murphy, Cummings. Now I had to sit in that very close to that area, right across from them, downstairs, actually in the Legislative Assembly, because there was some confusion about what was happening with media. So when we got there, I was supposed to go in the media box, is what I had been told previously by GIS, and then come to find out there was no room left in the media box because the Compass always sends more than their fair share. So they always have like 4 people that they're sending to cover events. And so when there's limited space, that creates a little bit of an issue. So both myself, Wendy Ledger, and even some GIS people were standing up for quite some time trying to figure out, well, where do we go? Because the media box is full. And so they kind of dispersed us all over the place. Upstairs and the gallery was full. So I got to sit downstairs actually in the Legislative Assembly, which gave me a bird's eye view of everything really that was happening. So again, nice picture there. There he is wearing his Cayman tie. And of course, I think he might be, we'll have to find out if he has an OBE or what medals he has, but that's Mr. Arch. And there he is. And of course, you probably would have figured out that Irma Arch and Mr. Dick Arch are family. So it was an occasion for multiple generations to, that's a good one. The other one, I think he had his eyes closed. So I'll go through and kind of clean these up a little bit in terms of deciding which ones must go. Now there's Jordana and her husband. Hold on now. Hurlston, Jermaine. Jordana and Jermaine. So West Bay residents, they were there to support Catherine and just to support the process, I think. Of course, you guys remember that Jermaine was out Friday. He was the first person out by the LA that really kicked off the protest. And then we send out the call for more people to come out and join him. So kudos to Jermaine. Well done. And that is his lovely wife, Jordana. So they were in attendance as well. Sometimes you got to take more than one picture so that you can like pick just the perfect one. So that one was good, but I think I like this one where they both have a nice smile in their faces. And there, folks, is none other than the king of East End, Graham Rankin. He's always claiming that he's the Don. He's the political, what did he call himself? He's the political animal of the Cayman Islands. He's actually the driver for the speaker, but he does say he wields the most power as the driver, which may be the case. I don't know. There's the governor, folks, when he got started. One thing I did notice yesterday is CMR needs to get a telephotic lens, because the lens that we have on this camera is not, it didn't do too bad considering how far we were like all the way in the back of the LA. This isn't too shabby, but I would have liked to have gotten a little bit closer than this. So on my wish list now is a telephotic lens for events like this. And it's good for not just events like this, but even sporting events and stuff where you can't always get too close up. You need to be able to zoom in. So there is Mr. McKeeva Bush. So how the process works is when he was voted in as speaker, he then left briefly to don his speaker outfit. So he came back with his speaker wig and gown. I don't know if gown's the right word for what they call it, but you know what I mean. And, the Legislative Assembly staff are obviously there to escort him and to assist him. And they had the 2 votes that they had to undertake with the secret ballot box. So it was good. I think a lot of people don't always get to see the process. I think those of you who are watching, at the very minimum, you kind of got to see how the process works. Now, those 2 pictures of poor Peter both came out a little bit fuzzy. So that's me and my poor photography skills. I'll blame that. But look at all the beautiful wives and husbands of the, yes, Al, because this camera is this is a Sony, and this lens, I think, goes from 24 to 70. So you're absolutely right. I need like a 70 to it's not a Canon, but it's a Sony, but I do need something in the range of like a 70 to 200 millimeter, or even a 300 millimeter, because I think I had my eye on one that was like a super telephotic lens. So I'll be looking into those things, and thank you for that recommendation. So yes, this was the wives and husbands section. So very supportive. The Premier's wife is there, Deputy Premier, Minister Kenneth Bryan, and of course, Kathy's husband, Michael, was there. So this is a continuation of that section. So well done. And then this is what I'm talking about when I say these sort of, Caymanian faces. I mean, is this not the most beautiful picture ever? They look absolutely gorgeous. Everyone, was having a good time and enjoying the event. Beautiful faces from all over, from Bodden Town, Georgetown, West Bay. We were all representing, and people had on their finest, their hats and everything. There's some of the little rascals. So there's Shirley and, what's Carmichael's? Hold on. I'm going to tell you what Melanie Carmichael, and Linda's there, Judy. There's Eden, Troy, and remind me of the lady in the brown hat with the brim. I should know this. Oh gosh, I've forgotten her name. Linda, help me out with her name. But they were all there sitting together and being supportive, part of the Amplified Cayman group and other organizations. So they were looking great. There is Wayne's brother and his lovely wife, Exie. So yes, lots of people in attendance. It was a good time. That one came out a little bit fuzzy. This is where I'm still trying to get used to this camera, Jill. Absolutely gorgeous. There's Melinda. Mal looking good. There is, oh gosh, I'm horrible with names sometimes. Wilkes. It's on the tip of my tongue. Claudia. Yes, that was her name. And this is Sylvia Wilkes. Yes, there we go. You'll have to forgive me if I don't know everybody's name, but people were just happy to be in attendance. Miss Romelia. There's Kathy having a word with Isaac. Maybe in this moment, Isaac was explaining, I came back because. So lots of pride there, folks. It was definitely, aw, isn't this the cutest little picture? Yes, Danny, I think I want like a super telephotic lens because I want to be taking moon pictures. I'm going to be the moon woman of Cayman. Forget the moon man. I want to be the moon woman, I love lunar photos. So I want to be right there taking pictures. But this is such a nice picture. All beautiful smiles. Oh, look at Juliana, my tweetums. She's like, I'm just happy to be here representing Cayman Brack. Peace out. Peace out. The guys look a little bit more serious. I know Mr. Kenneth Bryan was emotional yesterday at certain points. He got very emotional during the day, and Kenneth has come a long way, boy. It is what it is, and he has achieved so much. And of course, I think there are times like this when he is very much like, wow, I'm here kind of moment, And this is when the proceedings then were outside, and we were doing a number of different things. Of course, the crowd went crazy. By the way, when we were in the Legislative Assembly during the first portion of the evening, and they announced, Mr. Wayne Panton, he read his little proclamation. They read like two parts of it. One part, allegiance to the Queen and her heirs and successions and whatever. And then the other part includes the Cayman Islands, the people of the Cayman Islands. The crowd, I was in the LA, in the chamber, and I could hear the crowd outside going wild. I mean, they were wilding out like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And I was just like, wow. I mean, talk about a man of the people. Like the people have really selected these group of independents. And that's what has puzzled me about, the fact that that the progressives thought that they were the people's choice. I'm like, really? No, sir. Anyway, there's Mr. McTaggart. Some of you were sending me pictures afterward of some of the expressions on Mr. McTaggart's face. I understood that, oh yes, there's Sabrina in her outfit. This is a very good picture of her outfit as she's standing up. Had a little bit of a flair to it, but very professional, and everybody loved the wide brim hat. And the color, that kind of coral color, I think suits her extremely well. Of course, Kenneth wearing his yellow, that was his campaign color this year. So he had on a yellow tie. Chris Saunders had on a red tie. And I said to Chris, what's with the red tie? Are you trying to represent progressives? He said, no. That was the last present that my father gave me. So for a lot of people, it was a very symbolic event, and they wanted to wear things that represented that symbolism. So a special tie, a special cufflink, or whatever, to really represent this historic moment for them. So there's Barbara in the background in this one. It was hard to kind of catch the opposition because they were obviously seated behind the others. So yes, the governor and his lovely wife, Miss Lizzie. Everybody was looking nice. There's the Speaker of the House and his wife. I imagine that she, in the last almost 40 years, has been to so many of these swearing-ins and so many events. They probably all start to seem the same to her. So here's Pastor Al saying a word of prayer. So we don't know, John, who has what yet. There's a preliminary list that was in circulation yesterday, but that is not an official list. So we will wait to see, what the official list is. So lots of Caymanians, faces from all walks of life were there. There's Mr. Samuel Rose. He is cabinet secretary, and he assisted the governor in the second part where the ministers accepted they did their sort of oath for the ministerial position. And they had these little, same thing as what they did inside as being members of Parliament, but this was just for the ministers. So they took an oath and they signed two different areas in their little book there. So they all swore in the Bible except for Juliana O'Connor Conley. So apparently, because of her religious beliefs, she does not take a Bible oath. She just does a regular affirmation and not swearing in the Bible, which is interesting. I don't know. Does the Bible say anything about swearing on the Bible? I thought that meant that you were probably going to be as honest as possible. But anyway, some of them, such as Andre and Kenneth and Sabrina, really emphasize words like the people. And people love that. The crowds went wild. Oh, we love it. Yes, Gabby says, Mac, lucky that he has such a loyal wife. Trust me. You come from that generation, I guess you just stick it out no matter what. And she, Miss Carrie, is definitely one of the loveliest people in Cayman. She has probably seen a lot in her years. But you know, they don't believe in divorce, and they just stick with you no matter what. And they support you no matter what. There's the devil from hell. Of course, he owns the gift shop in hell. That's what we're referring to. Kenneth doing his Cayman first symbol when he was walking up on stage. And I tell you, like I said, it was just a very, very proud moment for him. Oh, Miss Daisy, you came out fuzzy in that one. So all around, it was a very good event. There's Sabrina. It's doing hers as well. She'll obviously be a minister. There's Jay. And there's Miss Juliana. Again, she was the only one who did not swear on a Bible. There she is. Franz Manderson, because remember there's ex officio members of parliament as well. So Franz Manderson, who is the deputy governor as well as the head of the civil service, and Sam Bulgin are the two ex officio members, so they have to do their swearing as well. And this lovely group of young people, the quartets, I forget what their official names are, but they have such beautiful voices. I don't know if any of them are twins. I know they're obviously all siblings, but I don't know if they're twins or anything. But man, they can sing, and they always perform at these events, and they have the most beautiful, angelic voices. So Wayne Panton gave his speech, and he called for unity, and it was a positive message. There's a few people who said that they liked the message, and one or two things they were kind of nitpicking about, but I think by and large, it was a message that everyone, you know, enjoyed. And what I did notice is, oh, by the way, the chickens came out. Look at this, folks. Everybody had a good little laugh at the chickens. They made an appearance. You know this is Cayman, right? When the chickens are like, we are here, and we are loud, and we are proud, and we're going to walk right in front of the premier and take the attention right from him in this moment. And that is exactly what they did. Elizabeth is wondering if I caught them. Yes, honey child, there they are. One rooster and one chicken. Maybe they were husband and wife of their little community. Speaker of the House and Premier, I don't know. But Williams Quartet, thank you, Magdalene. Yes, the Williams Quartet. They're not twins or quadruplets or anything. They look like they could be, but obviously they're all siblings, yes. Yeah, so there's the chickens, folks. They made an appearance, and they like walked around and did their thing. And yes, this is Cayman life. Trust me. It is what it is. And they stayed for a little bit too. They were not leaving. They're like, yeah, okay. Are you guys done using our area? Get off the stage. We're normally in this area playing and whatever. As the evening hours started to roll in, it was apparent that there was not a whole lot of lighting for the stages, but the beautiful Karen Eady performed and sung the final song of the evening. Everybody enjoyed that. There's Miss Mary. Now, do we have Anne or Janet watching? Because I told Miss Mary, because she's like, child, they keep up. She's like, my children know more about what happened in Cayman than me, and they're not even here. So I said to her, well, I'm going to send them this picture. She's like, yeah, they'll probably have it before you have it. So Jackie reminds us that the Bible, there's a section in the Bible that says, above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear, not by heaven or by earth or by anything. All you need to do is say simple yes or no, otherwise you will be condemned. Is James in the New Testament or the Old Testament? I'm just curious about that. Oh, Robin says that the chicken and the rooster flew up the tree shortly after, guessing we were messing with their bedtime. Very possible. So, Yes, Marshall says it wouldn't be an event if the chickens don't show up. There's Miss Mary again. Of course, you guys will know she was Speaker of the House at one point. There's Miss Karen Eady. By the way, when I was taking this picture, there was another lady all in red with Miss Karen, and she's like, I don't want you taking my picture. She kind of gave us an attitude. I'm like, who is she? Like, I don't know why she thinks she's all that important, but I'm like, okay. And it was afterwards that I discovered that that was Isaac's wife. I was like, Lord Jehovah. Okay. Up in her feelings. I don't want you taking my picture. No problem, lady. We will gladly not take your picture. Thank you very much. Part of the Panton family. This young man on the far right, is that Wayne's son? Or his son right next to him? I don't know which one is his son, actually. Very handsome family. I must say the young man in the pink shirt is super handsome. All right. And that's his mom. She kind of got cut out a little bit on the left there, but that's his mom on the other side. Again, check out the blue. This is that electric blue I was telling you guys about earlier. So beautiful colors. And as you can see, people had different, ways of wearing the blue. So very nice. And then this was, someone has just told me in WhatsApp, they said that young man, Cody has the beard. Okay. So who's the other young man then? He must be his nephew, I would probably think. Nephew, probably. He looks a bit younger. So this is Kenneth Bryan and his team wearing their yellow. And that's another gorgeous, I love the vibrancy of the colors that were chosen this time around for the campaign. Beautiful, beautiful colors. So a few of them were able to find yellow hats, which I think is amazing. And there he is with his mom and his wife and supporters there with him. So looking good, everybody, looking good. There's Miss Marva. Everybody was ready. There's Laura, the gorgeous Laura. Yes, beautiful. And the two of them took a little picture together. There's Kenneth and his wife, Marva and Miss Donna. Looking good. Everyone looked beautiful, I must say. That there were some gorgeous people all dolled up and ready to represent. There's Kathy. This picture doesn't do justice to her hair. She had like a side sweep. I feel like we're on the, whenever you have these events, red carpet events where you analyze the outfits. Well, she was wearing Prada, I feel like we were kind of doing that a little bit last night. But here she is. The hair was kind of swept to the side, and then it was like a side style. I don't know exactly what we would call that, but it wasn't really a bun, but it was like curls on the side and then kind of neatly put together. It was absolutely gorgeous. Thank you guys for letting me know where the Book of James is actually located. Yes, absolutely beautiful. There she is. That's a fuller picture of her outfit. Tara Rivers was also there at the event last night. You guys know that Tara is the outgoing representative. She's retiring from public office, as she has said, but she didn't want to speak to CMR either. I guess she thinks that we've been unduly critical of her. So there's Wayne with his brother and sister-in-law. And I think there's a few more family photos here of them. This young man on the far right, I think, is his foster son. So you guys may not know this about Wayne Panton, but Wayne actually has a foster son. And so most days he's on pickup duty in terms of picking up his son from school. So there's Heather and some of her supporters. There's Heather and Wayne. Looking good. So yes, it was an absolutely gorgeous event. There's Chris and Exie. His sister-in-law, Rose. I believe this is Rose. Now, Chris's sister-in-laws, they look like twins. He's got two sister-in-laws that I think were they both Cayman Airways stewardesses? But I think this is Rose. And Rose said to me that her and Catherine used to work together at Cayman Airways. Because remember, Kathy told us in her Conversations with segment that she started out working for Cayman Airways as a stewardess. And she got to travel the world a little bit and see different places in the world. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. So there's Mr. Scott. And there's Chris Saunders' mom. Yeah, so it was a lovely evening. This is kind of after hours. And I was looking at some of the pictures in the hallway. If you've not visited the Legislative Assembly recently, folks, make sure that you make a point of going. Because even just looking at the history that's on our walls, like right behind her, this is Chris's wife. Right behind her, look at that picture. You guys see who that is? That is Ezard Miller when he first got into Parliament. Look at the young Ezard. And of course, down at the bottom is Mr. Oh gosh, remind me of his name now. This would be Tina's grandfather, Bodden. Help me out with the name here, folks. But there were so many interesting names on that wall with the photos. Jim Bodden, thank you. Thank you so much, Claudia and Elizabeth. Yes, that's Mr. Jim right down there. I saw Mr. Ira Walton on the wall. And I didn't really recall that Mr. Ira was a former legislator. That was before I was even born, because I think he was in from like 68 to 72 or something. I wasn't even around yet. And there was Mr. Ira on the wall. I was like, wow, truly amazing. Here's Chris with his sister and his mom and his wife and his son. So family photos here, folks. Yeah, absolutely amazing. You got to go and spend some time in the LA. It's really quite something. Amjad, I need to talk to you about your comments and your behavior. We've been getting complaints about you being very, very rude on CMR. And up to last night, people were messaging me about you private messaging them and being very rude. And so we might have to rein you in. That was the final photo of the night. So there you have it, folks. Amjad, you need to behave yourself. We're going to have to tell you about that. So yes, it was an absolutely lovely evening. I hope that you guys enjoyed that. And the other thing that I just want to wrap up the show now with something else that came to my attention. So this young man, I didn't know who he was, Josh from KY, says Cayman Mall Road agenda is so shameless, not a peep on McKeeva as speaker. And someone sent this to me saying, oh, you know, these kids are up in their feelings. I don't even know who Josh was. I'm like, well, who the heck is Josh? So when I found out, apparently this is Joey's son, Joey Hugh. And, you know, the whole family gets up in their feelings about it. The only issue I have with this, and I saw somebody comment about, oh, he has the right to say whatever he wants. Yes, he absolutely does. But what he shouldn't do is not tell the truth and state something as though it's factual when it isn't factual. This is his opinion, and he's entitled to have an opinion. But he says that we haven't set a peep on McKeeva's speaker. We spent an entire show talking about this. So clearly this is a young man who doesn't follow CMR, who doesn't know what we discuss here in the program. But unfortunately, he still makes comments as though he knows what's going on here in CMR. And so I thought that was really quite unfortunate. Young man, get yourself together. And work out your feelings. Talk about your feelings. Yes, if you're upset that your father did not get a ministerial position back with the Progressives, nothing wrong with being upset about that and talking about it. But don't make a statement that actually isn't factual about CMR, because we have been talking about this issue most of yesterday's show was about this. Trust me, we've talked it into the ground. I think people are now sick and tired of the discussion on this. And then finally, today being Earth Day, we'll have a moment of, I think, no lights this evening and that sort of thing. But I wanted to also encourage the people to clean up after yourselves. Now, this was sent from the District of East End. Someone sent us these pictures, and they said these were the fireworks that Isaac and his committee lit off at his final meeting, probably the night before elections. And it's still littering the beaches. They sent me about 3 or 4 photos to demonstrate the litter that is still happening on the beaches right there at the Heritage Beach in East End. Now, if you're the representative for the district, I would have certainly thought that after your celebration, you would have ensured that someone cleaned up whatever was left behind. And to think that these, I don't know what kind of, I guess they're firework boxes or whatever, after they've been lit and gone into the atmosphere, it leaves this behind. This is all of the debris from the fireworks is what we've been told. So it's Earth Day, East End folks. I know you were up in your feelings, but please go and clean this mess up this morning if you don't mind. We would really, really appreciate our Heritage Beach in East End, ours, because it belongs to all of the Cayman Islands. And unfortunately, debris has a way of traveling. It oftentimes doesn't necessarily stay on the beach, but it's going to get in the water. Looks like their dock needs a little bit of help there as well. But it'll get in the water, and it's going to pollute the water. It's going to pollute the sand, killing off our fish and all of these other things. So please go pick up your garbage. It's Earth Day. Let us give back to Mother Earth as much as we are taking. And trust me, we're taking a lot. So we have a lot to give back. Just as a reminder, there's going to be 2 events this weekend at the Queen Elizabeth Park. There's the Earth Day tours and yoga in the park as part of the Earth Month celebration. So please go check out the park. Of course, people are welcome to take part in Earth Day, which is today, with a dose of nature with guided tours at the Blue Iguana Conservation Facility and the Queen Elizabeth II Botanic Park. So you can do your tours tomorrow from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. and it's $30 per person. And if you want to book a tour, there's information here that you can certainly do so. So we'll put up some of that information. Damien says enforce a $500 littering fine. I honestly think it should be $5,000. We need to care a little bit more about, our environment. So Amjad, you need to stop calling people nasty pigs and names like that. Those are extremely derogatory terms. And most people respond to you after you've said something. I don't find that most people actually start a conversation with Amjad. So Amjad, you've been in Cayman long enough to now know that you need to behave yourself. And calling people nasty pigs is not going to cut it. Okie dokie. I think that's all I've got for you, beautiful people. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the program. We appreciate that at least we've passed over the hurdle of having a government sworn in. We are hopeful now that they will be able to work together and to accomplish great things for this country. We have a lot of high expectations. I think if there's one thing that the government needed to be aware of is that obviously nobody wants Juliana back as Minister of Education. So find somewhere else to stick her that is less important. The Ministry of Education is an extremely important ministry. It's our future. It's the future of our children. And perhaps she's getting close to retirement. Juliana, maybe this should be your last term. And she's not really that engaged in the process anymore. Give her something that's easy, which I don't know what minister is easy, but find something that's like a walk in the park for her so she doesn't have to be too stressed out and she can ease herself right into retirement. Beautiful Caymanian folks. Charles says we need a trade center. Have a wonderful day. And we shall chat again tomorrow, God's willing.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.